Ladies and gentlemen, when we try to sketch in our mind the image of a man who always has a twinkle in his eyes and a childlike innocent smile on his face, a man who brings cheer and hope in every heart, a man whose message of peace and compassion speaks to persons of all faiths, and the image that will come forth in your mind will surely be of the 14th Dalai Lama, Tenzin Gyatso. His life milestones have already been traced by Srimati Jayashree Mohta and Srimati Rajshri Birla. So I would like to share with you a response that His Holiness gave when he was being interviewed by a senior TV journalist, Barkha Dutt. When she asked him about, does His Holiness get angry? And his response was, and I would like to quote, "You see, when I get angry or irritated due to very small mistakes of some other people, then I just express and then finish. I try to separate myself from anger, then watch my anger, that emotion, then immediately the strength of anger diminishes. You cannot have some sort of special practice for each case, but you must build your basic mental attitude in a healthy way." Unquote. His Holiness likes to describe himself as a simple monk with three principal commitments. First, on the level of a human being, His Holiness is committed to promoting compassion and forgiveness, for promoting tolerance, contentment, and self-discipline. Second, on the level of a religious practitioner, His Holiness is committed to promoting religious harmony and understanding among the world's major religious traditions. In his view, despite philosophical differences, all religions in the world have the same potential to create good human beings. Third, as a Tibetan who carries the title of the Dalai Lama, His Holiness is committed to serving the Tibetan people as a free spokesperson on behalf of their struggle for justice. His Holiness is respected all over the world as a spiritual leader committed to service of humanity, whose learning is as extensive as his wisdom is profound, and whose teachings draw so deeply upon the wellsprings of Buddhist philosophy and Tibetan culture. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an absolute honor for me to now invite the world's most respected and, more importantly, the most loved political and spiritual leader, His Holiness, the 14th Dalai Lama, to deliver his message on success and happiness.
Indeed, I feel great honor having this opportunity to share some of my views and experiences to another human brothers, sisters. Actually, many of my thought, my activities, they already mentioned. So now, nothing to add. However, usually I do not much pay attention about the ranks or position like that, because I always consider human brothers, sisters. I myself, you see, consider another human being. And also, whenever I meet people, I always feel, another human being. Not much differences. But however, when I enter this place, you see the people refer someone, the Birla, sort of a family member or something. Then also Japrakash Narayan, isn't it? Japrakash Narayan. Japrakash.
Jaypee God.
JB.
Jaypee God is the founder of Jaypee God.
Oh, right. I think then I made mistake. So the Birla, when they mentioned Birla, I immediately felt 1959, April, I think around 20, April 20, I reached Mussoorie. After a long journey, when I reached Birla House is at Mussoorie, I think a few days, a long journey by train. So when I reach Mussoorie, sitting on comfortable bed, still I feel jadak, that kind of feeling. Then moreover, when I come across the border, Kansamani, just before that, I sort of developed Karsati means share. Share, another share, diarrhea. Some kind of diarrhea. So that also, you see, weakened my body. So quite sort of weak body, sort of the body level. So then I had very good opportunity, complete rest. Then meantime, Pandit Nehru came. I think fourth week, April. I think 23rd or 24th, Pandit Nehru came. And since I know Pandit Nehru, 1954, in Peking, Pandit Nehru's visit there, so we met. Then 56, of course, Buddha Jayanti celebration. A lot of discussions with him. So, actually, 56 came to India. Inside Tibet, already some problems already started. Situation become each year worsen. So at that time, I told Prime Minister Nehru, now I may not return, I may stay here in India. Then Pandit Nehru, that's 56 and 57. Then Pandit Nehru advised me, better go back. And actually, he personally take serious interest. So he carried on 17-point agreement. He carried one copy of that agreement, and he marked some articles. You should carry a fight within Tibet on these basis on these lines. So, accordingly, I returned. Then 58, finally, March 59, things really become out of control. Then there is no other choice except escape. So, Pandit Nehru really showing some kind of his own part of his own responsibility. So he's really showing me genuine interest and sympathy. So like that. So that's at the Birla house. I remember the room, a chair, like that. So, Birla family. I was told, I received one photo. The quite young gentleman and I think another lady in the center, my picture. Everyone quite young. Now I was told that gentleman 93. And that the lady 89 or something. So since I came to India, stay in Birla house, since then, now almost 55 years. Anyway, sad. Lost one's own home. But we found new, bigger home. That's India. Psychologically, very close with this country. All our knowledge come from India, particularly from Nalanda. So, emotionally, very, very close with this country. Then come here, the political asylum, but government of India, you see, take care. That's me personally. So usually I telling, I'm a refugee, homeless person. However, I'm longest guest of Indian government. So that's the beginning of my refugee life. Then, because of government of India's help, because of India's freedom, the refugee life, during refugee life, I learned many things. Firstly, although I myself, trained about ancient Indian thought, that's non-violence, ahimsa, from childhood. Then live this country. Basically, the concept, I think 1,000-year-old India's concept of ahimsa, still very much alive. Look, over 60 years since India got independence, compare neighboring states in this country, in spite of many other problems, quite stable, peaceful. And because of tradition of ahimsa, democracy, quite well preserved, although some drawbacks here and there, and stable. So therefore, while remain in this country, the concept of non-violence, ahimsa, then very much sort of refined, right? Refreshed, yes, refreshed. Then, non-violence, we cannot, the demarcation only on level of action. real demarcation of violence and non-violence is mental level. Mentally, some kind of certain desire, certain sort of mental element, then want to cheat someone in order to take advantage on someone. With such motivation, showing smile, use nice words, and including some gift. Because of negative motivation, actually violence. And then, other hand, genuine sense of concern of others' well-being. Sincere sort of sense of compassion. Some use some harsh word, a little bit sort of harsh sort of physical attitude. Looks some kind of harsh, but because of the motivation, is sincerely, you see, pay attention about their well-being. So essentially, that's non-violence. So if may I say so, I often is now expressing now corruptions. Now I think everywhere, not only India, but within the country, in India also the corruption quite serious. So corruption is also, you see, a form of violence. Cheating, bully, exploiting are violence. So therefore, violence, ahimsa, very much related with motivation. So then, motivation, compassion, compassionate motivation, then every action become non-violence. So therefore, I try for promotion of non-violence or promotion of peace, ultimately related with here, warm-heartedness, sense of concern of others' well-being. Once you have genuine feeling, sense of concern of others' well-being, then there's no room to bully, to cheat, to tell lie. So therefore, the proper way or complete way for promotion of ahimsa, non-violence, is we must promote warm-heartedness. Now here, again I learned during these years, according to Indian sort of understanding about secularism. In fact, India's own constitution is based on secularism. Because of the reality, it's this country, multi-religious sort of society. So one religion, if you emphasize one religion, it cannot work. Therefore, according Indian understanding about secularism means respect all religions. No preference, this religion, that religion. Then also one unique thing, according to the Indian understanding about secularism, is respect non-believer. One of my Indian friends, some of my friends, you see, they mentioned, they told me, over 3,000 years, some school of thought, that named Charvaka school of thought, over 3,000 years. One of the oldest spiritual tradition. Spiritual, or I don't know, the school of thought. So that school of thought denying any value of spirituality, only this life, material life, materialistic life. So that, we can call ancient nihilism, materialistic. So rest of Indian sort of school of thought criticize that, argue that. However, refer those people who hold that view, refer Rishi, sage. So that means respect such people. So, according to Indian understanding about secularism, also you say respect non-believer. So that's, I think, in modern time, I think very, very relevant, very realistic approach. Some time back, I saw one sort of report. It said, out of 7 billion human beings, over 1 billion people non-believer. Then obviously, suppose 6 billion human beings are supposed believer, but you can see among the believer, quite some portion of mischievous sort of believer. So sometimes I see expressing, unless you look your own religion seriously, sincerely, otherwise religion, sometimes you see there is a danger. Religion teaches us the practice of hypocrisy. Oh, saying nice things, compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, but in actual work, no bother, these things. So sometimes the religious faith also, you see, useful instrument to exploit others, manipulate others. So, among different religious traditions, there are people who really exploiting sex in the name of religion and exploiting money, even among Tibetan Buddhists also. So, why? These people, in deep insight, lack of moral principle, because lack of conviction. Moral principles are really basis of happy life or successful life. So then religion also manipulates. So we really need effort, rigorously, promotion of conviction about basic human values. So since my first visit to Europe, 1973, then I already, you see, felt now we really need the sense of global responsibility. So basically, the sense of oneness of humanity. Whole world is part of we, whole humanity, the human brothers, sisters. Then, on that level, we can develop, on that basis, we can develop genuine sense of concern of their well-being. So, on the other hand, much problem which we humanity facing, quite a big portion of these problems, actually human creation. We create these problems, including violence, wars, these. Nature, of course, nature disaster is something different. Much of the problem is our own creation. Yet, nobody wants problem. But in the meantime, many problems are our own creation. So that is, in mental level, emotional level, we too much emphasis self-centered attitude. Just me, 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 me. Don't care about other. Then for short-sighted, due to short-sightedness, narrow-mindedness, and then exploit other, bully other. So all these destructive human activities and problem which we created is essentially related with self-centered attitude. So the countermeasure for self-centered attitude is sense of concern over others' well-being. So therefore, according to Indian understanding, I'm trying to make known to our human brothers, sisters, the sense of compassion is the key factor for non-violent sort of world, non-violent society. And their real basis of that is sense of compassion. Sense of compassion, the promotion of sense of compassion based on religion, then complication, as I mentioned earlier, there. So therefore, we need, through secular way, to promote sense of compassion, sense of responsibility. That we can do. Now here, use our common experience. I think every people here, we all come from our mother. We've grown up with parents' affection, particularly from mother's affection. So I'm quite sure among these people, outwardly, everyone very smart, suppose very successful life. But in deep inside, those individuals who received maximum affection from their mother, from their parent, in deep inside, much happier, much less sense of insecurity. So these people easily develop compassion, trust. So on the other hand, those people who at the early age, lacking mother's affection, or without a mother, or parent, some abuse. Such people, whole life, deep inside, some sense of insecurity. That kind of sort of that kind of feeling there, then such people, difficult to trust other people. Always little sort of prefer distance. So that kind of attitude is actually against the basic human nature. Now modern scientists, mainly medical scientists and brain specialists, I had serious discussion with scientists now over 30 years. So now many scientists now clearly can show their conviction through their investigation, experiment. Fear, anger, hatred is actually eating our immune system. Whereas calm mind, very good for our health. So when we stay a few minutes in the room, you see some of you see show the picture. So then one of you see mentioned quite handsome, young monk, quite handsome. You mentioned that. So now still today, now 7-8-year-old monk, I think still comparatively quite handsome. So I really, recently, some people, some is my long-time friend I met, so they say, oh, now you see, so many years passed, but still you looks quite young, they say, like that. And then one my friend, long-time friend, actually one Nobel laureate. So we just, since we know very well, so we just talk. And then I asked his age. He say, his age about 71 or 72. Then I mentioned, oh, then my age, 78. And he immediately said, no. It is impossible. Your face, not like that. So impossible, it is mistake. Then I insist, the year I born, 1935, I mentioned, he still say, wrong, must be wrong. He doesn't believe, it's my age, 78. So that, you see, doctors also, you see, I annually, you see, taking medical checkup. Of course, gallbladder, because of stone, few years ago, removed. So my peace of mind doesn't help to melt this stone. So finally, through through surgery like that. So from my own experience, I can tell you, peace of mind is really immense help to preserve, to maintain your physical condition. And some scientists, last few years, they actually carry some experiment. Some people, they give some training, about 3 weeks. Before training, training about, and also educate about the value of warm-heartedness, these things. Then before they start training, the medical checkup, blood pressure, the amount of stress, these things, and then some other thing to test. After 3 weeks training, again check, blood pressure reduced, stress much reduced. As a result, person become much happier. Then they are sort of interact with other people, become much more friendly. Actually, you see, they through experiment, they found, they convinced. So therefore, we are not talking these human values, to next life, good life, or salvation, or go to, because in order to go to heaven. No, we are not talking about God, not talking about Buddha, simply how to develop healthy body and healthy family, through that way, healthy society. So that secular way to approach these secular ethics. So this also I learned during those years in this country. And then another important thing is, while we notice, we observe killing in the name of religion, terrible. Among the Muslim countries, fight between Sunni and Shia. Follow same Quran, 5-time prayer, Allah. Due to small differences and different name, fighting. Then Northern Ireland, Catholic, Protestant, killing each other. Follower of same Jesus Christ, Bible. Really terrible. Now, unfortunately, recently, Buddhist and Islam, Muslim, also now some problem in Burma and to some extent in Sri Lanka. So when we see these things, then it is really unthinkable. All major religious traditions teach us practice of love, compassion, tolerance, forgiveness, contentment, self-discipline. All major religious traditions, you see, carry these practice same. In spite of philosophical views, big differences. In spite that, as far as practice is concerned, all carry same practice. So then person who suppose practice tolerance and forgiveness, how can fight, killing each other? So sometimes it seems all major religious traditions suppose, you see, reduce our negative raw emotion. But unless you pay seriously about your belief and sincerely, then your destructive emotion, raw emotion, where? Destructive raw emotion, use religion. How bad? Suppose religion. So there's saying, medicine supposed to remove illness, pain, but medicine itself causing pain. Then what to do? Similar. Religions, different religious traditions. Of course, those religions with philosophical sort of explanation. This is supposed to build sensible human being, compassionate human being. Then that religion itself causing conflict, very bad. So then observe India. Not only modern India, but 1,000-year-old in this country, religious harmony there. Of course, due to political due to some sort of political reasons, sometimes there's some problems here and there. But basically, I think India, over 2,000 years, all major world religious traditions live together in this country. Few years ago, I was in Jodhpur. I met one Romanian. He told me he carries some research work about religious harmony in this country. He visited one Muslim village. You see, their village means at least a few thousand population must be there. So he mentioned he found in that Muslim village 3 Hindu families, no fear, completely peaceful, very friendly. I think that's India. 1,000-year-old, this religious harmony. So therefore, since India is something living example, so I have full conviction we can build religious harmony because they are one country, over 1 billion population. Not only recently, but 1,000 years remain that way. So then we can build everywhere religious harmony. So again, you see, while I in this country meet people, learning from these sort of my Indian brothers, sisters, and I develop full conviction we can build this whole world religious harmony. We can build. So I carry two sort of work, two commitment: promotion of human value, strictly based on secular concept, and then religious harmony. These two things I fully committed. Till my death, I committed. Sometimes I'm telling some of my friends, now I'm getting older and older, but sometimes the knees create some problem, and I stand or sit there. But then I'm telling this my friend, there's no problem. If my sort was the karsa, my profession, sports, then I must concern about my needs. But I'm not sort of profession in that way. My profession is, whether profession or sort of my job is bala 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 bala. So even wheelchair, I can move, and then once settled, bala 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 bala. So no problem. So till my death, I committed promotion of secular, human values, strictly secular basis, and promotion of religious harmony. Now the theme, success and happiness, very much related with this. When I approach this place, and also on the road, I saw many huge constructions or buildings. So one way I felt, oh, this is a sign of development. Wonderful. From one corner of my mind, how much happy people who use these big buildings, and owner of the company, I think too much busy, too much stress, too much worry. So outwardly, very successful, or billionaire or millionaire, but individual case, not a very happy one. More concern, more worry, isn't it? Like that. So some of my friends in Europe and also America, I think billionaire, I think very rich. But when we sat and talked, and then gradually, you see, they telling me what they are really feeling, and a lot of worry, anxiety. As a result, unhappy person. So there are plenty of money fail to bring inner peace. So inner peace, material, money only can provide physical comfort, but not mental comfort. Mental comfort, because logically, because there's trouble here due to emotion. You're physical, very well, but emotionally unhappy. So clearly, that unhappiness or troubled mind created by emotion. So the method to tackle that, training of emotion, training of mind. Within emotion, we must find counterforce to reduce this destructive emotion. Not through material way, or injection, or surgery, or alcohol, or drugs. No, only through training, through develop right kind of mental attitude, then these unnecessary sort of worry, unnecessary sort of stress automatically reduce. I think my whole life, at the age 16, I carried this responsibility. In the meantime, new situation developed. Then, my age 76, 60 years, I fully involved about this sort of problem. Then, 2011, now I completely retired from political responsibility. Not only myself retired, but almost 4-century-old tradition, Dalai Lama institution automatically become head of both temporal and spirituality. Now that ended. Voluntarily, happily, proudly. So, my life, whole my life, during my teenage way, teenage, only worry is my lesson. My lesson, you see, because my tutor keep whips. So, out of fear at that time, I was great reluctant student. No interest to learn, only play. But out of fear, I carry my study. Except that, very happy one. My mother there, very kind mother, and my elder sister, like that. And then my surrounding people, including sweepers, very warm-hearted person, very truthful, honest. At that time, these sweepers are the best source of information. And they, when I ask, without hesitation, they tell me what's going wrong, what's religion doing, what's such sort of religious leader doing, what's such officials doing. All sort of negative information brought by these people. When I ask some officials what is the situation, they quite politely say, good. They say that. So not very reliable. These innocent people, really very honest, very truthful. So I grown up that kind of atmosphere. Then, age 16, I got this sort of responsibility. And the Tibetan people trusted me so much. They really put a lot of hope on me. But I can't do much. A lot of difficulties. But during this period, my best friend is my own mind, wisdom sight. All problem, I look at from distance, from holistic, more realistic way. On 8th centuries, one great Indian Buddhist philosopher, he expressed, when we face some problem, some tragedy, you must analyze the tragedy. If the tragedy can overcome, then no need to worry, make effort. If the tragedy, no way to overcome, then no use too much worry. Just accept that. I think that's a very, very realistic advice. So when, after I took the responsibility, sometimes I express my sort of worry to my tutor. And then tutor often use advice. He recites these sort of sentences. So still I remember. So very, very helpful. So, in spite difficult circumstances, many cases helpless circumstances, because of these sort of thinking, I can keep my mind peace of mind. So therefore, I always stress, you audience and the speaker, me, no differences on the human level. We all part of 7 billion human beings. Mentally, same. Emotionally, same nature. Physically, also same nature. So you have problem, I also have problem. At the same time, I also have the sort of ability to challenge these problems. Should not become overwhelming on my mind. You also have the same potential. Only difference, only sort of thing is, you pay some attention about your own inner ability, inner potential, inner value. Including dream, always think money, 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 money. Not that way. Pay some attention about the inner value. Then your life can be a happy life. Happy does not mean no problem. Problem always there. So only thing is, the attitude, the way to look to these problems. If you develop certain way of looking, mental attitude, then this problem. Kasoda, I mean, we can deal this problem without much sort of what's today, much sort of what's today, sadness or these things, helplessness, like that. So that about my talk. So now I would like to take some questions. So any questions you can put me, you can ask me. You have complete freedom. And also, I have complete freedom. Whether I can answer or not, that also my freedom. Thank you.
Your Holiness, you described yourself as a refugee and a homeless person, but I'm very sure that you reside in every Indian's heart. The first question that we have received is from Mr. Rajiv Sachdeva, and his question is, we always see all around us that people are suffering a lot. In view of this, how should one believe that God exists? If the answer to this is that it is all because of our karmas, then why all corrupt people are not suffering or getting their dues in the same life?
I think a different concept due to different philosophical views. Now, for example, theistic religion, you have the sort of concept of creator. Then non-theistic, no concept of creator. Everything law of causality. So I think different answer. But actually, obviously, I think as far as Buddhist concept is concerned, problem, suffering, ultimate source is ignorance. So firstly, education is key factor. And I think existing modern education system, wonderful. But now here, if we include some moral teaching, as I mentioned earlier, based on secular, that can be fit in secular education field. That I think some sort of university professors and some scientists, now we already carry some sort of research work, these things, and also some experiment already going on. So, the existing modern education system very much oriented about material value. I think not adequate about education or the moral ethics. So, I usually call in education, we also include hygiene education about the hygiene of physical. So similarly, hygiene of emotion should include strictly as a secular way, not talking about religious terms, religious things. That I think is possible. That I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think 7 billion human beings, the modern way of life is very much materialistic sort of culture, materialistic way of life. Unless you pay some attention about religious practice, there's not much talk about deeper human value. That, I think, one sort of causes is a lot of problems, crisis, emotional crisis, or moral crisis. Sometimes I, quite frankly, telling my Indian friends, basically you are very religious-minded. But same religious-minded family, as far as corruption is concerned, not much concerned seriously. So that's a big contradiction. You accept God, you pray to God, you worship God, but your daily life, not much concern about justice, honest, truthful. So these, as I mentioned earlier, I think due to lack of conviction. That conviction must develop through education, through awareness. Truthful, honest, compassionate is best interest for yourself.
The next question is from Mr. Pankaj Goyal, and he wishes to ask, which is more important, morals or wisdom?
I feel one side, wisdom. Wisdom tells us you should be honest, you should be truthful, you should be compassionate. So proper wisdom teach us, show us importance of moral ethics. So I feel moral ethics through awareness of the value of moral ethics, not just order. So many religious people, they simply, consider, God teaches us. And then not voluntarily come. In order to develop voluntarily enthusiasm or determination, you must have the fuller knowledge, the value of these moral ethics. So, wisdom, I think, very, very important. Next question.
The next question is from Mr. Naresh Chachra. What comes first, success or happiness?
I don't know. Perhaps happiness there, all your work may be more successful. Too much worry, too much anger, I think your work cannot carry properly. So I think happiness means calm mind. I feel that way. Calm mind actually create a human brain which can judge right or wrong, short-term consequences, long-term consequences, all sort of good or bad, long-term, short-term, good and bad. These intelligence is analyzed. The animal, which their survival entirely depend on sensorial experiences. We human beings, because of this unique brain, we look long-term interest. So, in order to carry fully ability or potential of our brain, calm mind is very important. Once your mind, too much attachment, too much sort of anger, then your mind become biased. Through that way, your intelligence cannot function properly. So I think happiness there, calm mind come. Calm mind then create all your sort of visions become realistic. The realistic vision, realistic approach is the basis of successful, basis of success.
Thank you.
But I think, you see, you yourself investigate through your own experience, your own sort of experiment. That's a bad answer. Then you got best answer. I don't know. Yes.
The next question is from Mr. Alok Kumar, who wishes to ask, sorrow can never be separated from happiness. Sorrow is equally important and cannot be ignored. Why we discuss only happiness?
Here, I think the Buddhist concept, when Buddha teach Four Noble Truths, the first Noble Truth about suffering. There are 3 levels of suffering. Usually we call suffering of suffering, like physical pain or mental pain. These are suffering of suffering. Then another level of suffering is usually we consider the worldly life, supposed to say successful worldly life. That actually the suffering of change, the second level of suffering, or deeper level of suffering. Then finally, because of suffering of duji.
So the third level is called the suffering of conditioning existence.
So when you refer suffering, I think mainly physical pains or mental pains, these things. Then I think now happiness here 2 levels. Again, just sensorial level pleasure. That kind of happiness is not very important. But important is much sort of less because of the suffering, or because of the overcome suffering. That's happiness. That happiness is obviously, you see, we want. Even an animal, insects. You see, they feel physical pain, do not want. So every sentient being want to overcome that. So happiness is, of course, I think, Kasuda, more important. Otherwise, I always say, the very purpose of our life is happy life. Miserable life, unless one's silly people do not know what's the problem, what's the sort of suffering, then maybe go that way. Otherwise, you see, any sensible, even animal, do not want suffering. So certainly, I think happiness is much important than suffering. Ka?
The next question is...
What? Not very clear. Question. Oh. No, not clarify the question. Actually, the concerned organization invited me to talk. Coming here, talking about these things, not my request, but they asked me. So then, basically, everybody, including insects, birds, everyone, want happy life, do not want suffering. And then we human beings, because of this human intelligence, a lot of unnecessary problems there. Physically, okay, but mentally unhappy. So worthwhile to discuss these things. If you do not discuss these things, do not investigate these things, then human brain wasted. Recently, we have sort of meeting with scientists. So, one occasion, I just expressed the human brain, something very unique, very marvelous brain. So, human brain now complaining us. Oh, my brain is something very kasota, very kasota. Yes, very sophisticated, and a lot of potential. My brain cannot explain thoroughly on the experiment or investigation of mice brain. You know, rat brain, right, Murray? The scientists, you see, they experiment on mice or guinea pigs, and try to know mind. So human brain and guinea pig's brain, big differences. So human brain cannot explain thoroughly on the basis of experiment on animal brain, isn't it? So I just express, our human brain now complaining us. In order to know my ability, you cannot sort of know through animal experiment on animal brain. So if we go that way, if we too much relying on sensorial experiences, then this marvelous human brain is wasted. We have a lot of sort of ability. So therefore, I feel it's quite useful to discuss, exploring. So now many scientists, well-known, respected scientists, as a result of our discussion, and also they're facing in the society, modern society, some problem. So now a number of scientists really pay attention about the system of emotion. Without knowing the system of the emotion, very difficult to tackle. So I think, me personally, fully involved in these sort of research work. It is very, very important. Now I think we are 21st century, beginning of 21st century. I think as far as material development is concerned, technology is concerned, highly developed. But that now shows the whole world the technology or material development not giving us guarantee happy human society. A lot of problems there. So we have to, these problems, not a physical problem, but mental problem. So we have to discuss seriously what we are lacking, what should do, like that.
This is perhaps the last question that we would be able to take. How strong is the movement of free Tibet? Within Tibet or outside Tibet, is there substantial support which will help the cause?
Now, this is a political question. As I mentioned earlier, I already retired from political responsibility. However, our struggle, of course, in the past history, 7th century, 8th century, 9th century. For example, 1954 autumn, I went to Peking. 1955 summer, I returned to Lhasa. On the way, I spent a few days in ancient Chinese capital, Xingen, where one Buddhist temple, the Buddha statue, which kept in Lhasa, most sort of sacred Buddha statue. That actually, from there, the 7th century, the Tibetan emperor married with Chinese princess. So with princess, you see this statue brought to Tibet. So I spent a few days in that city. One day, afternoon, we just touring an old wall. A very high official who accompanied with me, and we just sat on the ancient wall. Then he told me, in ancient time, Tibetan army reached up to here. Chinese emperor compelled to fled from capital. He told me. So it is true. I think 8th century or 9th century, Tibetan sort of army used to reach there. So like that. So according to some sort of historian, they say during those centuries, Chinese Han Empire, Tibetan Empire, Mongol Empire, 3 empires. So that's past. Then, 9th century, later part of 9th century, Tibet disintegrated. And small kingdom here and there like that. So, past is past. We have to talk, we have to deal the present sort of situation, present condition. I always inspire European Union, spirit of European Union. One of my tutor about quantum physics, late von Weizsäcker, a great physicist. Once he told me, when he was young, every French eye, Germany is their enemy, and similarly, in the eyes of German, French is their enemy. But that kind of attitude completely changed. He mentioned to me. It is very true. The Germany and French, they initiated the concept of European Union. So time come, think more common interest rather than small interest. Too much nationalistic view, sometimes harmful. This country, the Binu Babaji, Binu Babi, is a one time he expressed one concept of ABC. A means Afghanistan, B Burma, C Sri Lanka, then India, Pakistan, some kind of federal. So such, you see, the visions there. So Tibet case, materially backward, culturally highly developed, particularly Buddhist knowledge. I think today, in whole Buddhist world, I think Tibetan Buddhist tradition is pure tradition or living tradition of Nalanda tradition. Takshashila institution, now in Pakistan, and Nalanda and Birkamalashila. All these was the historical Buddhist institution. I think we, Tibetan Buddhist tradition, I think directly come from these sort of tradition, particularly the Nalanda tradition. Therefore, we have very, very rich Buddhist tradition. So, spiritually, very, very sort of highly developed, but materially, very, very backward. Meantime, every Tibetan wants to modernize Tibet. So, therefore, remain within the People's Republic of China. It is our own interest, provided we should have full sort of as the responsibility or full right to take care about our culture, our language, our environment. Then okay, remain within the people from China. During Mao Zedong's time, yes, in his mind, very much, he always emphasizes they never consider Tibet like any similar sort of any other Chinese provinces. Tibet case is something very special case. Chairman Mao, himself has told me several times like that. So therefore, recent years, you see, there's some narrow-minded. You see, then they're doing some unrealistic sort of way of approach. So therefore, we are not seeking independence for mutual benefit. If we insist independence, then it gradually creates confrontation. Confrontation eventually bring violence. I always telling because of the people outside the world, in the West or everywhere, I often sit expressing Palestine problem cannot solve through confrontation, only through dialogue. Mutual equitable solution. That's the only way to solve this problem. Since 1948, this problem started. Still that problem there. Dangerous problem. Because it's both sides, you see, more sort of confrontation way. So therefore, while I'm telling people, other people, criticize, and actually I always telling, this century should be a century of dialogue, because 20th century becomes century of violence. According to some historian, in 20th century, through violence, over 200 million people killed through violence. So, that immense violence, if really brought better shape of world, it not happen. Like Syrian problem. All these, I feel, symptom of past centuries' mistake, past centuries' negligence. So even I think so now, okay. So therefore, Now this century should be a century of dialogue. Means problem always there. Whether we like it or not, we have to live together. Only sensible way is talk. Try to solve through mutually agreeable solution. Not one-side victory, one-side defeat. Not that way. So while I'm telling other people, I have a full conviction, then our own problem also, you see, have to solve through that way. So that's why middle way approach, not seeking independence. Since 1974, we made up in our mind, sooner or later we have to talk with the Chinese government. And question of independence is irrelevant, because of unrealistic. So mutually agreeable solution is the only way. So middle way approach, we start. So Chinese government level, no concrete result happened. But people's level, number of Chinese intellectuals, writers, many Chinese Buddhists, because we are not seeking independence, we are not seeking separation. So many of this really showing solidarity and full support. Now over 2 years, we noticed 1,000 articles in Chinese language wrote by Chinese. All these over 1,000 Chinese articles in Chinese language all fully support about our way of approach. Very critical, their own government policy. So that is, I consider, is a positive effect from our way of approach. Now look, Chinese hardliner officials still accuse us splitist. They know we are not committed splitist movement, but they deliberately repeat that. Even to some extent, you see, they mentioned me, demon. So when I first heard, you see, that, I react, yes, I'm demon. So these, you see, they are hardliner. You see, they need splitist movement. Then they find it very easy to suppress. So Chinese government official media never mentioned our middle way of approach. Only, you see, Dalai Lama, Dalai Lama's clique, Dalai Lama clique, splitist, against the Chinese motherland. No, whole world knows, like that. So therefore, actually our more activities about independence is actually helping those Chinese hardliner officials. And then government of India also, you see, fully support about our middle way of approach. And the United States government also fully support. And the European Union also fully support. If we follow independence, I think firstly Indian government find it very difficult to support. Like that. So we should be, as I mentioned earlier, use human wisdom. Decision should not take under influence of emotion. Decision must take under human intelligence, holistic way. Isn't it? Thank you.